Hey everybody, Mike Peasall, pastor at Gateway Christian Center here in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Today is Wednesday, March the 18th, and this is Mike's Midweek message. Thanks for joining me today. So I have to give credit at the very outset of this. Even the title came from a friend, Jeff Gwaltney, and he said we were together at a little reunion a few weeks ago, and he sent me a note saying, hey, it would be a great title for a midweek message is New Old Friends, because that's what Jeff is. Jeff and I are we're relatively new old friends, and I thought that was such a great idea, and so that's where I'm going. So thanks, Jeff. I told him I'd give him a co-write on this. Go back to when I was in college. I graduated from Belmont when Belmont University was then Belmont College. And from 1971 until 1988, Belmont College had a PR group, a public relations group, that was called the Belmont Reasons. It was about 17 school years, and probably had close to 200 students that would be part of the group. Sometimes you might make it 2 or 3 years. Or you might just be there the 1 year. But the whole point was that you would go to high schools, you would go to community colleges, you would go to churches, and you'd sing and you'd talk to people, and you'd try to get people to check out what Belmont had to offer in the area of music and music business and all those cool things. And so several times now, over the past 50 years, we've gotten together, people who are part of that group, and it's kind of like, the older you get, your high school graduation, it starts to be like clumps of time because there just aren't that many people left anymore. But just a few weeks ago, we had one of those get-togethers with 20 to 30 people who were part of the Belmont Reasons. And it was so interesting because immediately there were people that maybe they were in school, 8 to 10 years before me, or 5 years before me, or maybe they came after me. But you immediately became what Jeff and I referred to as being new old friends. You didn't really know each other, but it was like you had a friendship. And I got to thinking about, why is that? Why did I have the friendship with these people who outside of that room, I didn't really know them. And then I realized it's because there are a couple of things that we have shared. We have a shared experience, we have a shared passion, and we have a shared relationship. We have a shared experience in the fact that we were all part of that group, and even though every year it would morph a little bit and it would change a little bit, but basically the same thing was happening. We got together, we learned music, we learned even choreography for some of us, which was harder than for others, and then we would go and we would perform, and pretty much everybody in that group liked to perform, or you wouldn't have been in that group. And there were some incredible musicians, and so we had those shared experiences, and then the shared passion. Well, we all loved music. We all loved people. We all loved we loved to perform. So we had a shared passion, and then you get to the probably the number one thing, and that is that we had a shared relationship. Now, the person that we mainly had a shared relationship with was the guy who was the director of the Belmont Reasons, Robert E. Malloy, Bob Malloy. And it was funny sitting there and listening to everybody talk about the different stories. And immediately, as they were talking about a conversation they'd had with Bob, or something that they'd done, and I thought, I know exactly what they're talking about. I know the look they're talking about. I know the way he said a certain word. I myself would have starved had it not been for sweet iced tea and onion rings at a Shoney's that Bob was paying for. So those three things, a shared experience, a shared passion, and a shared relationship, that really translates even more so onto those of us who are believers in Jesus Christ. Now, do you know everybody who's a believer in Jesus Christ? Well, no, but when we come, when we meet somebody, just today, this morning I was in Murfreesboro at a pastor's conference, and I met several people. And even though it was my first time to meet them, they immediately were new old friends. because we have shared experience, we have shared passion, and we have a shared relationship through Jesus Christ. And it was amazing. Multiple years ago, I got to go on a mission trip to Paris, France with a group of people. As you're going and you hear a lot of things, you're told a lot of things, and then there are just those warnings that people give. Well, the people in France are not going to be very friendly to you, and they're going to be kind of snobbish towards you and everything, and don't expect the French people to be kind to you or whatever. And probably when I was in Paris, at the beginning and the end of it, that might have been true of the everyday people. But when I got where that church was they were new old friends. Immediately they were new old friends. It didn't matter that they were French. It didn't matter that I was an American. It didn't matter that they spoke such a beautiful language. None of that mattered. What did matter was that we had shared experience, shared passion, and shared relationship with Jesus Christ. I heard a DJ on the radio the other day, Christian radio, and he said, we love people even if they don't look like, think like, or vote like we do. Now, that's a good rule of thumb. Loving people, even when they don't look like us, even when they don't necessarily think like us, even when they don't vote like us or whatever, it's really, really important that we start thinking about those shared experiences, shared passion, and shared relationship. John 13. So here's what John 13, 31 through 35 has to say, I think, on the topic. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me, and just as I said to the Jews, so now also I say to you, where I am going, you cannot go. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Jesus taught us a lot of things, and there are a lot of things that we have yet to learn. But there are so many times that we become disconnected. We become at odds with people who we have so much in common with, but there's one or two things that we don't have in common. And when we kind of begin to major our focus on those things that we don't have in common. And I agree that as Christians, there are some things that are non-negotiable. That Jesus is the only means of salvation. I think that's a non-negotiable. But there are a lot of things about, end time prophecy and what you believe about this. And there are things. I have a saying: nobody's right about everything, which means everybody's wrong about something. The thing is, we don't know what we're wrong about, and we speak boldly on the things that we believe to be true, but we have to go into it with some humility and go, a guy said today, humility and humor. We have to go into it with some humility and go, I realize that I'm going to be wrong about something. I just don't know what it is that I'm going to be wrong about. As a matter of fact, this Sunday, I'm doing a kind of a special message this Sunday, and it is the question, is Israel still chosen? Now, if you want to know, you'll have to either come to Gateway Sunday or watch online. But that's one of those topics where we can just say, nope, if you don't believe exactly like I believe, blah, 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 blah. We have to continue to remember. We want to focus on the things that we share in experience, we share in passion, and we share in relationship with Jesus Christ. Jesus said, they will know you're my disciples, not by your theology, not by which denomination banner you. They'll know you're my disciples by your love one for another. So I just want to encourage you to find a new old friend this week. Find somebody who you have shared experiences, shared passion, and shared relationships with, and do what Jesus says. Just love them, love them, love them. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Wednesday.